And I was like 20 minutes away on a brand job for a client, my biggest client on the biggest job. And I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And I was like, and it's one of those things that I was like, I have to. I'm like, I don't care if I lose this job. I don't care if they fire me. It's like, it's DJ Premier. This is my idol. I'm going.
Moments of fate. Yeah.
And I remember I had a buddy. I was like, tell him I went to the bathroom and I wasn't feeling well. And I just like ran out, took a cab, went to Times Square.
What's up, guys? How are we doing?
We are fantastic.
Doing great. Amazing, man.
I'm super excited about our next guest. We got JN Silva, acclaimed photographer. He's had 2 collaborative drops on Nifty Gateway with ThankYouX, just did his own first solo drop. And, you know, he's worked with guys like DJ Premier. He's involved with the Animus Artist Collective, just a real trailblazer in the space, pushing photography NFTs forward.
Yeah, ¿qué tal, Matt? Thank you for having us, coming live from Miami. Having JN Silva today, I'm really excited to hear more about his move to Miami and how he is helping to elevate other voices forward. I think he's definitely somebody who has put in a lot of time and effort into the community, so I'm excited to hear his backstory.
For sure. No, it's an incredible backstory. I think he also is just a perfect example of how NFTs are creating a new economic model for creators. I mean, he got his roots as a music photographer, and now he's been able to become one of these kind of pioneering artists in the space and earn a living. And I think we'll see lots of artists and creators across different domains follow suit. And that to me is just so exciting to really present a whole new model. Before we jump into the episode, though, do want to encourage everybody that's tuning in, that's listening, to go sign up for our newsletter at nftnow.co, nftnow.co. We're constantly staying up to date with regards to upcoming drops, commentary, analysis. So really want to encourage you guys to check that out. So without any further ado, JN Silva.
JN, so excited to have you here in Miami on the NFT Now podcast. How's it going, man?
Oh man, it's an honor, a pleasure to be here. It's so amazing to meet all of you in person, to, you know, to see people in the flesh again and just like, you know, have that camaraderie and just, you know, get these conversations going, especially after such a crazy year and, you know, everything that's happened in our world over the past months. I feel like this is like almost like a culmination, but also like a beginning of just like the next bigger wave. So yeah, thank you for having me.
For sure, man. Happy to have you. I mean, you're a trailblazer. You were the first photographer to release on Nifty Gateway in collaboration with ThankYouX. You've got your own solo collection coming up this Sunday. Tell us a bit about that journey. How did that all happen?
I mean, it's where do I start, right? So I've been a creative, you know, for probably 20 years or so. I moved to the US from Venezuela. I feel like that was, you know, obviously a huge, you know, changing moment in my life, just kind of changed everything. When I moved here, just long story short, you know, we moved on a whim. We left all of our belongings over there. So when we got here, like, you know, when I was in high school, like all my friends, I remember for yearbook day, they were like, oh, you need like, you know, everyone bring your baby photos. And I just had like no photos of any kind just because we left all our albums, everything over there. So, you know, I was an only child at the time. My mother remarried, had kids, and I was like, okay, I want them to have like the best memories and the best like documentation of their life. So I like, you know, pleaded and begged until I found a camera and I just started documenting their life. And that's how like my creative, you know, journey began, was just literally photographing my little brother and sister. And I've always been like super introverted and shy. So, you know, eventually I figured that like if I have a camera, I can be like a participant in a lot of things, but also kind of have the shield where like I can just be an observer and not actually have to like interact too much. And like, you know, if I'm at a party by myself, I'll be in the corner and just being like that weird guy, you know? And if I have a camera, I'm like, oh yeah, it's go time.
In the mix.
Like, you know, I'm in here, you know? And then, you know, just living so close to New York, obviously for me, you know, I was like, I need to explore this city and see the beauty and the madness and the energy. So I would just grab my camera and just walk around New York City and just, you know, grab photos. And then, you know, once smartphones came out, same thing. I was like, I'm just gonna walk the city and you know, take photos. And I'm always, you know, I've always been kind of like a tech computer nerd. So, you know, I was one of those kids like, you know, 97, 98, I was like on the search engines, like joining message boards, like 13 years old. I remember I downloaded Napster the day it came out. Like, I'm aging myself here, but I was on that. I was like, what is this world? So, you know, I've always kind of been like looking for that next thing in tech. So I've always just kind of like, you know, as soon as a new platform comes out, I'm like, all right, let me sign on to this. Like, let me check that out. So I was early on Instagram. I was early on like a lot of the platforms. And, it's kind of been like a repeating theme throughout it all that, something happens and I'm like, this looks interesting. Let's check it out. And, I'll be the first to dip my toes in. So, I learned in that world and in that vein, I learned about Bitcoin, in 2016, 17. And, coming from Venezuela, inflation was what destroyed our economy. And, Bitcoin and blockchain kind of being a hedge, against that. And, the decentralization movement just like spoke to me. And I just became obsessed with like learning about it, just like fully dove in. And then, with the advent of like NFTs, and I'm like, whoa, this is like art and blockchain is like my two favorite things. So, I was just kind of like on top of it. But at the same time, my passion has always been photography and particularly like music photography. And I was like super busy, just like running around, shooting festivals, events. And, it wasn't until the pandemic where, we were all forced to kind of like take a step back and slow down. And, that gave me the time and the space to like fully explore, the things that were happening in blockchain and NFT and Web3 and DeFi and all that stuff.
Boom.
It's a wonderful journey, man. And there's a lot to unpack there, especially having the disruption of coming into a new country with immigration. And like, I love that your story derives from lack and actually being able to create the memories for your younger siblings. And like coming from that, I want to give, I want to make sure to preserve. Photography is so powerful in the everyday world. It transforms society as a whole. Like now we have cameras in our pockets. But let's talk about the photography in the NFT space and like, why weren't they getting their day originally? And what's going to happen in terms to catalyze photography into a medium of seriousness in the NFT space?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's an amazing question. Yeah, I think, everything comes in kind of waves and every medium has its moment. Mm-hmm. And I feel like for photographers, like when Instagram came out, and smartphones, at first you can only upload from your phone, and anyone who was like a photographer and was skilled in editing and shooting and, composition and lighting with your phone, those were the people that were shining, right? And then they allowed the ability to upload from your camera years later. And then photographers were like, oh yeah, this is us, and we've been, I feel like my friends and my community and my network, like, we all did very well just being on Instagram and creating kind of like that buzz around photography. And you had the rise of influencers. And I feel like a lot of, at least, my friends and network, again, they became kind of like mini superstars. And like, wow, I've had moments where like, we can't believe like our camera got us here. We've traveled the world and, hung out with the coolest people and shot all the, these things. And, with this new medium, right, it's something where digital artists and people that are like natively digital, especially, particularly 3D artists, never got a platform like that. And, when you see 3D work in particular, it's always like commissioned work, and it's stuff that they were making for other people. And they were kind of just like never really seen as their own, artist, which I've always disagreed with. And, especially with, the cyberpunk, rebellious, futuristic, dystopian, like blockchain thing, I think just 3D, it was like, it was their time to shine, and I'm just so happy to see, because I've been following all of these people that are crushing it in the space for years, and I'm just always have been mind blown at their work. So for them to kind of like take that spotlight for a while was like incredible for me, and by the same token, like, unless you're a collector, a fine art collector who has already been looking for photography, it's kind of like the shiny new thing. It's like, whoa, I haven't seen this before, this 3D. Whereas like photography was seen in prints and, you've seen in galleries and it's still, whereas like this new thing, you have like these gorgeous digital displays that are displaying these moving things and, with the music. So, I for one, like, yes, I am at the forefront and I'm pushing for photography because I think it absolutely has a space, and photography is like an incredible art form. And as you said, it's had its place for years. But, I'm also happy to like, let's give these guys some shine, or, these people some shine, because they deserve it. With that said, I've been seeing a ton of amazing collectors, kind of just like make that push to collect more photography. And at first, like myself included, like I've known about NFTs for years. And I was like, oh man, is there like, should I do my, photographs of NFTs? I don't know. And then just like the legal aspect, like, do I retain the rights? And it just like, there's a lot of questions that were like up in the air. And, I was like, oh man, shit, and you have the like doubt. And all of my friends who I told about, and even now, they're just like overthinking it and thinking about it so much. So I think now that more and more photographers are coming into the space, and now we're like, creating our own unified voice, I think we'll start to see more and more. And you're already seeing it. I think last week we had like a big sale for a landscape photo, one of the highest, bought landscape photos. I know the photo shoot with Kurt Cobain. You have like those classic photographs that are making a comeback. So I think we're just going to see more and more of it. So I'm excited.
Hell yeah. No, it's super exciting too. And I mean, I think even in like music industry, it's so competitive as a photographer, and you're even if you're an esteemed professional with a great portfolio, oftentimes you're competing against hungry people that are shooting for free just because they want to get their foot in the door and get some opportunity. So it also becomes a really interesting kind of potential just new economic model for photographers to earn. When you kind of look in the next coming years, 3 to 5 years, how do you kind of expect this to potentially like fundamentally change the way photographers earn a living?
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole new, like you said, it's a whole new way of making money. It like unlocks a different mindset, because now, a lot of people were working with brands and getting commissioned work and working with artists. And now this kind of gives you the freedom of mind to say, wait, maybe I can concept some of my own personal work and keep it and, make a whole collection of art. Something that like before, for me to say, okay, I'm going to make a collection, it was either, I release it as a series on like social media and hope, to get some buzz around it, or like try to reach out to like galleries, which I have no idea what that, I've tried and it's just been like radio silence. But now
Give it time.
Yeah. and now I can say like, well, yeah, I'm going to concept this whole, photo shoot series and craft this body of work. And then I'm just going to put it out there on a platform. And, there's collectors who are looking for it. There's all these networks. There's like, it's taken back that veil from of like, not knowing who the collectors are or who's interested in art. And now there's this global network that we're all in tune with, who that's what they're all about. They're all about empowering artists and collecting their work and investing in them. And, for every photographer I know, like I said, it's unlocked this new mindset. And also it's like, I personally have been shooting for 15 years. Like I have over 1 million photos that I've shot in my lifetime, most of which have never been seen. And now I'm like, well, now I can like dig back in the archives and, I look, I've shot so many photos of New York. I've shot photos of buildings that are no longer there, rooftops that are no longer there, like impossible views, like overhead shots, it's like a totally different landscape. And now I'm like, wow, this might be nostalgic for someone who like, lived here in that era. One of the coolest things about the first drop with ThankYouX and I, was the Avenue of the Americas shot. It's one of my favorite shots. I have like a really cool sunrise story behind it, and like spoke to me because of my personal connection to it. And ThankYouX loved it right away with the cubes. And as soon as we released it, like everyone went crazy, and they were like, I used to work there. I was there for years. That was my favorite avenue. I have so many memories there. And you have all these things that like I wasn't foreseeing so many people to connect with that particular place and time. And so many people did. So that's like, I think that's the, amazing thing about photography is you never know how a photo is going to like impact someone.
Totally agree with that. And I love what you spoke to of this new mindset, because I think that it's something we're really seeing in an interesting way in the digital art space. The idea that these artists who have been largely reliant on client work for their income can make a living off their own creative vision now. And so I'm curious your thoughts. I think there are probably a lot of photographers who are tuning into this, who are making their living off client work right now and are thinking about how can they take that next step and make a living off their own artistry as a photographer in the NFT space. Just curious if you have any advice for them. Or
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think one is education, right? And right now there's a barrier of entry because it is some pretty difficult stuff to wrap your mind around at first, right? The first step is NFTs, and then you have blockchain technology, and then it just opens up this whole new world of tech and finance and all of these things that when you read about it, it sounds like immensely complicated, and it is. But there's always, there's always a breakthrough. There's always a moment where I tell my friends, like, just keep going, keep watching videos, keep doing the research. There's just a moment where it all kind of like clicks and you're like, whoa, this is like revolutionary. And you understand why that is. And I think that's the first step, is just, taking the time to really educate yourself about everything that's going on, not only in NFTs, because that's like opening the door, but really in just blockchain, Web3, decentralized systems, and once you get that whole picture, then it just like unlocks all of these new ideas. And I'm sure different artists have, crazier ideas. I mean, I can name a bunch of people who are just doing stuff that I'm like, whoa, I think I know, more about blockchain than a lot of artists. And I'm seeing these new people just coming in and just like doing things that I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't even think to do that. That's amazing. And again, it's just through education and just like immersing yourself. And then two, and you'll hear this probably a million times over all the podcasts, is just community. Right? It's just really going all in and getting on, the platform, social media platforms, following, all the NFT, conglomerates and the news and the podcasts, and just watching them and seeing who are the players who are at the forefront of this, and seeing what they have to say, and then joining the conversation on Twitter, joining the conversation on Clubhouse, Instagram, Discord, Telegram. It's one of those things that it's time consuming, and it's like, you can't really be half in, half out. It's one of those things that the more time you invest into it, the more it's going to give back. And, I've made more friends in the last 6 months than I made in a very long time. And people who I'm like talking to daily, and I haven't met them, all you guys, I've been talking to a lot of you for a while, and every time we haven't met, I feel like I know you because, we're so active on it. And, I think the community is a huge aspect of it. And again, the more you give to it, the more it gives back.
That's really fantastic, man. I love that when you mentioned that if you keep searching, there's a moment that clicks, right? I love that because I felt that. That's like a visceral, the visceral moment. I really want to bring this perspective back to a single moment in your perspective and your careers, like when you started working with DJ Premier, right? Like walk us through that click, walk us through that moment. What was it like? How did it happen? That was pretty epic, right?
Yeah, honestly, like I'm still just like, I get chills just thinking about it, right? Like one of my favorite stories, like when I moved from Venezuela, like rap hadn't quite made its way over there. Like I remember the first hip hop song I ever heard was Coolio's Gangsta's Paradise. Ooh, and I think I went to see Street Fighter in theaters with my dad.
Ooh, classic, another
right?
classic.
And then they played the trailer for the movie, which was a Dangerous Minds with Michelle Pfeiffer. And then they played this song and I was like, and I just remember like this is like something new that I had never heard. And then I remember like hearing it on the radio and over the trailers, and it was just like so odd. And then like I was a huge Michael Jackson's fan in Venezuela, and then I moved here, and I was in the bilingual class for a year or so. Then I got moved to regular, and then I remember the kid that sat in front of me always had all these crazy clothing, and at the time it's so baggy, like I don't understand, it's so culture shocked. And I remember we went on this
quadruple XL t-shirts, the white tee.
In 7th grade. And I remember we went on this.
Jeans. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Taking it back, man. And we went on this field trip, and I remember I sat next to this guy, and I was a little like, scared, honestly. And then he was listening to some music. He was just like bopping his head, and then he just looks at me. He's like, "You want to listen?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And I'm listening, and I was like, oh my, like, what is this? And then I remember, this one song that I was like, I asked him, I was like, can you like put this back? And I just asked him to like again and again. And then I didn't even like think to ask him what it was. And I was like, thank you, amazing. And then I remember being home, and it was like, coincidentally, it was like the first time we got cable. And I had never had cable before. And I was just like up late browsing the channels. And I guess I landed on, a hip hop channel. I'm sure it was either MTV or BET or something. And it was a commercial for Nas's I Am, right? With the Egyptian hieroglyphs and the thing and the music. And I was like, this is what I was listening to. And the song that I kept running back was Nas's Like, right? And that is, it's just such a visceral, vivid memory in my mind. Right. And from that moment on, like, again, I'm one of those people that like, once I get into something, I'm like, okay, I must learn everything about this. And I just like, as soon as, later on down the years, streaming came out, I was just like listening to everything, the history of hip hop, and just like going from the beginning. And, once you get to Gangstar, DJ Premier just takes over, and you really, the older I got, I just understand this man is just a legend. Like, he's had a part in almost every major classic hip hop album of all time. And his catalog is so vast, and had a period where I got into underground music, and he worked with underground artists, and he worked with international artists, and he's still working today. He's relevant. And a few years ago, I was working an event for one of my favorite clients, and I get a call from his manager because I work with another artist who he manages, and he's like, "Hey, Silva, Gangstar's dropping their album today. We just got word that Spotify is giving them the main billboard in Times Square. Preem's gonna go. Can you like pop in and shoot? But you have to be there in like 15 minutes." And I was like 20 minutes away on a brand job for a client, my biggest client on the biggest job. And I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And I was like, and it's one of those things that I was like, I have to. I'm like, I don't care if I lose this job. I don't care if they fire me. It's like, it's DJ Premier. This is my idol. I'm going.
Moments of fate. Yeah.
And I remember I had a buddy. I was like, tell him I went to the bathroom and I wasn't feeling well. And I just like ran out, took a cab, went to Times Square. We did a photo shoot for like 15, 20 minutes. He was like incredibly nice. That happened. He loved the photos. And from there on, his manager has now like a little studio in Preem Studio because they moved. And so he got used to seeing me just hanging around, but I was always just like the photographer guy. And, he liked me. And as soon as, all the NFT stuff happened last year, like, first thing I thought of was like, who would I love to bring into the space? Like, who are the people whom I would think is like, yeah, this is like a whole new culture that you're onboarding into the NFT. And I kind of like made a little list, and he was at the top of it. And I told his manager, I was like, hey, can I like pitch something to Preem? And he's like, all right. So I pitched it to his manager, and he was like, like, I don't understand, but like, sure, go for it. And I went.
I love that. I'm not like, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
And I remember, I got a meeting with Preem in the studio, and I broke everything down, as best I could. And he was just like so perplexed. And I think what really, connected with him was, this notion of it's, collecting art in a new way. And his mother was an art teacher, and she used to, paint a ton of art. And she was literally an art teacher for 20, 30 years. And she taught in Houston for a very long time. And I think that's it. He was like, I think my mom would like that. If my stuff was seen as art. And I think he's like, yeah, let's do it. This was like maybe like mid-December or so. It was before my first drop. So I still didn't even know what we were doing, And I think
your shot though.
And I think it's just that, like being open-minded and trying new things. And for him, like, he's done so many things across so many mediums. He's scored movies, he's scored TV shows, he's, live shows, private shows, obviously albums, and this was just something new for him. And he was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. Working with him was like an immense honor. And, the process was incredible. He's one of the most humble, nicest, just people I've ever met, period. And he treats everyone with such respect. And then that's when you see like, this is the only way you make it, into a 30+ year career where everyone loves you, is just being a good person. So I learned so much from him. And, it was really cool. By the end of it, like, we were going back and forth, and it was a total collaboration where he like gave us these beats. We started like crafting his life story and putting it into art. And then he saw it and he's like, whoa, can I change it, like the beat? And I'm like, yeah. So then I would go to the studio and he would add stuff to the beat to go with the stuff we were making. And it was like a full collaboration between us both, and it was amazing. And, we were all super thrilled on the results and immensely proud of the collection with everyone involved. I got to bring along a lot of friends. And I'm so proud of it.
That's fire, man. That's a beautiful collaboration. And
Thank you.
Underscores just the beauty of collaboration in this space and how you can be the kind of the liaison into the world. And I think we'll just continue to see really beautiful collaborations, and it's cool to hear how organic it really was.
Thank you. If this is a side note, but there's another thing that I'm really proud of that I don't think anyone knows. The second person on that list for me was Alex Gray, right? I've been, my favorite band is Tool. So, I've been a Tool fan for years, since college, and I was studying philosophy, and once I got into Tool and the lyrics and music, it just like changed my mind. And then obviously found out about Alex Gray and what he's done, with his art and in the psychedelic space, and I just became a huge fan. He was like number 2, and once again, like, I shot my shot, and I just like cold DM'd Alex Gray on Instagram, like, hey man, like, have you looked into like NFTs at all? And like this thing, he's like, oh, he's like, that's like that Beeple crap guy, right? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah. He's like, I've seen it around. I'm interested. He's like, do you think we'd be good for it? And I was like, oh, you know, you and Allison would like crush it. And I think you could use it to, you know, raise funds for the Entheon, which is, you know, the space he's building in upstate New York. And he was like, yeah, okay, cool. He's like, what do I do? I was like, I'll put you in contact with some people. And I just like started connecting him with people. And you know, like he had the Nifty drop, which was incredible. My favorite drop. That's my favorite NFT that I own, is one of the Alex Gray limited editions. Yeah. So I just wanted to say, put that out there. But Alex Gray is like, yeah.
Shooting your shot, dude.
Yeah,
bro. Like,
That's what it's all about. So can you tell us a little more about the Animus Artist Collective? I mean, I think it's a beautiful community, bringing together some artists. What's kind of the vision, what the hopes?
Yeah, absolutely. So Animus was actually started last spring, and it was because I was in all of these crypto networks with all of these like people, you know, developers and auditors and investors and all of these like crypto heads. And, you know, they're incredibly, immensely smart on the technical and financial aspects, but a lot of them are not so creative. So I was like, hey, like your guys' graphics are like lacking a bit. Like, you know, and I was out of work. All my friends were out of work, you know, because of the pandemic. And I was like, you know, I can help you like make some banners and like some Telegram stickers and just like funny things to like hype up your projects, because, you know, a lot of crypto projects, their communities thrive on Telegram and Discord. And a lot of it is just like honestly meme based, right? So it started as that. We were just making, you know, I had a bunch of friends who, you know, we know Photoshop and we know a bunch of the Adobe programs, and we started just making assets for, you know, all of these new DeFi crypto protocols. And as we were going, you know, the DeFi summer came, and then this NFT started coming around, and then they were like, hey, can you like make some of these for us? And we're like, oh yeah, for sure. Like, we're all artists. We'll figure it out. And, you know, it was, again, a bunch of buddies and I and people that I knew needed work. I was like, hey, if we learn some 3D, if we learn some Illustrator, like I think we'll get a good, you know, amount of work. And then from there, honestly, like as the NFT conversation started heating up, we started just getting more and more clients. And then I saw it as an opportunity of like, okay, I have this incredible network of blockchain people, and then I have this incredible network of artists. I'm like, why don't we become kind of like that bridge between them? Right. So we started working with a lot of the DeFi protocols, particularly Meme, the Meme platform, which was like one of my favorites. We did a bunch of really cool projects for them back in September. And, you know, they did really well. And then I was like, all the crypto heads were like, oh, whoa, who are these like Animus guys that are like making NFTs? And, you know, and the cool thing is we learned a ton, because the NFTs on the DeFi side have a lot of utility. So if you own, you know, a particular NFT for a platform, then your yield is higher on the platform, and then there's like tiers of it. So we learned a lot about the utility side. And then obviously, as, you know, more NFT platforms started coming on, there was more of a need for like artists to create stuff. And, you know, I've always been super community based. So I was like, all right, let's get some communities going. So we started a public Telegram group, and then we never advertised it. You know, we created a Twitter, and then I just made like an aggregate of resources for people to check out. And it was just like all my favorite links with like, you know, articles, podcasts, all these things that I curated. But it was from other sources, and obviously it's all credited, and we give them clicks. So I figured everyone wins. You know, we have this one aggregate of things for people to learn about, and, you know, anyone who wrote it actually gets the clicks. And for me, it was a way with like all of my friends who asked me, what the hell is an NFT? They're like, here's the link. You can go here if you want to learn more, join our Telegram, and this is what we're talking about all the time. And the Telegram just started, like, we were just getting all these crazy people joining, and people that I've looked up, you know, to for years across different mediums, and they were just joining. And, you know, we were super active in there. We started having a lot of Clubhouse talks, and then it just grew into this like artist collective. And, you know, of course the DJ Premier drop was like our big like shiny moment where like as a collective we you know came together and put out this new collection of work. We have a few more collections coming up, and then on the back end we've already had our hands on a few projects. So we advised on I don't know if you guys know the Eternity platform. So for the Eternity Muhammad Ali drop, we were like creative advisors on that, and a few other drops. For the Artifacts project, we helped, you know, kind of like produce their big activation in Times Square. So it's kind of just like we're making it up as we go, but you know, it's a lot of artists, and we're trying to like bridge those two worlds of blockchain and art.
That's super cool, man. And, you know, I'm excited to see where it goes and what you do with it. You know, speaking of platforms and community, you know, I think that, I think it was Clubhouse where we first connected. And I think Clubhouse played such a crucial role in connecting people in the NFT space during those early sort of days when we were all kind of stuck at home due to the global pandemic, and you know, this excitement around the space and the market was starting to boom. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Do you feel like Clubhouse is still a really critical place to be if you want to engage with the NFT community as things are kind of transitioning more towards IRL? Here we are.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question and something I've thought about a lot. And I think, yeah, Clubhouse was again one of those things that had its perfect moment where all of the elements were there. You know, the brewed the perfect storm for Clubhouse to just like thrive. Everyone had been stuck at home. You know, everyone was like yearning for connection, but at the same time, everyone was like so tired of like conference Zoom calls, and you're just like, oh, I don't want, you know, like I just woke up, you know, and it's just a voice thing, so you can like, you know, be at home just like on your couch talking and connecting with people. And I remember those like early NFT rooms that there only be like one or two, or you had to start it and it'd be like 10, 15, 20 people and just like nerding out about this new thing. And then slowly it just started like growing and growing and growing. And I think, you know, those first few months were amazing because it was only a few rooms, and you could, you know, everything wasn't so fragmented as it is now. Right now it happens like I log into Clubhouse, and obviously it's because of my network, but I'll see like 30, 40 different rooms, and I'm like, oh man, which room do I go in? I don't have time to, you know, spend as much time because everyone's kind of like fragmented and doing their thing. Whereas at the beginning, everyone was like fully united because we were all learning this new thing together, right? And now that coinciding with things opening up again, and, you know, people wanting to go out and get that in-person connection again, I think, you know, I've personally have not had as much time because now I'm like, I need to find a balance, because a lot of us are spending like, you know, 14, 15 hours on Clubhouse. Like, I'm not much of a talker and my voice would be like hoarse. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm losing my voice because I'm on Clubhouse too much, you know? And so I think it's still absolutely an integral part, and I still pop in and like, I'll check the notifications, and obviously I'm there to support a lot of people. But for me, I just moved. So like, I haven't been able to be on it as much as I want to. And it's crazy because like, I moved a month ago, and it's literally been like a month since I haven't had as much time. And I started hopping in like last week, and it was like a whole new set of people, and they're like, they know each other. And you know, I'm there, and
who are these people?
Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm like raising my hand, and no one's bringing me up. And I'm like, I come up, and they're like, who are you? Like, oh, man,
who are you, bro?
Yeah. You trying to learn something? I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to learn from you guys. Like, what are we teaching here? Yeah, and it was just literally just 1 month, and it's just crazy how like, you know, you leave for 1 month, and there's all these new people who are hungry and just getting into the space, and now they're interacting and building their own new community. And it's just like these phases, you know, so it's interesting. I love it.
That's really wonderful, man. I love the notion of network affecting and growing in this development. You recently mentioned that you moved to Miami, so we're here. We both now call this place home. So what do you think Miami's role will be to keep itself as a contender in the crypto community, and how is it going to affect the NFT space? Like, what's Bird doing here?
Yeah, so I mean, I moved here for multiple reasons, but mainly it was because, you know, Miami is trying to position itself as a crypto and art hub in the United States, right? And it's a place that's been on the come up for a long time. Like, you know, I come down to the Art Basels. I have been for years, and it's always a very vibrant artist community. But now when you like merge that with this, like, you know, this emerging blockchain space, and with, you know, the mayor and the people of the city trying to like cater to that crowd and build the city through this like new innovative tech and art, it's created like a whole new ecosystem of investors and artists and you know, all of these things that we're involved in. And when you combine that with like kind of like the Miami culture, which for me, you know, I'm Latin American, and you know, the Venezuelan diaspora is here, and for me, like, I have so many Venezuelan friends and musicians, and a lot of them just like have heard about Bitcoin and like kind of know a few others and have heard NFTs by now, but they're not like fully aware, right? So I'm like, well, I feel like all my New York friends know they're hip to it now, right? They're already on their way. They're going. New York is gonna New York. Like they're doing the thing, you know. Whereas like here, I felt that, you know, if I moved here, I could have like a deeper impact on the culture that, you know, I grew up with, and kind of like empower all these people with this new technology, and at the same time be closer to like the art scene here, because it's growing so fast, and you know, kind of just like help in any way that I can, you know, uplift what's happening here, and just kind of built. And I'm just so excited for Art Basel, and I feel like this week here is just a mini preview, because this isn't even an NFT week.
Yeah.
You know, this is another parallel, you know, obviously Bitcoin, and normally Bitcoin conferences are all maximalists. They're like, don't talk about any other thing except Bitcoin. And the only thing I've heard about here, even from my friends that are here, you know, from blockchain, they're just like NFTs.
Yeah.
You know, and so many events, and like even at the conference, there's events. I have buddies painting there. ThankYouX is painting there. You know, so it's like, it's interesting to see, and it's just like a prequel to Art Basel, which I'm like just so excited about.
That'll be crazy this year with NFT convergence. Awesome, man. Well, as we start to come towards a close, like what are some of the projects you have in the pipeline that are coming up that you're like super excited about?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously I have my first solo drop on Nifty this week, and I'm going straight photography. I do a lot of different things, but I figured for my first solo drop, like I got to just stick to my roots, and I'm just going straight up raw photography, and I'm doing kind of like a retrospective of my career, moments that, you know, kind of like shaped my career at different points. And I literally spent a very long time just going through all my catalog and finding all these things that, you know, are very personal to me. And, you know, just know whenever this airs and people see it, just know that like to you, it may be a random photo, but to me, like I have very personal memories attached to them, or there were moments that like this photo changed my career in this way, or this moment made me realize this. And, you know, I'm very personally attached to everything that I put out there. And I mean, I'm proud of it. It's my first solo drop, and it's crazy because I've been in the space and known about it longer than a lot of people, and I haven't dropped anything except, you know, the collaboration with ThankYouX and the stuff with Primo. And, you know, it's for me, one, I'm an overthinker, and, you know, you get the imposter syndrome, and you see all these people dropping insane stuff, and I'm just like, I'm just a photographer, right? But also at the same time, like, you know, building Animus, and, you know, I kind of found myself at a position to like shine the spotlight that was on me on all these new artists. So I was like, I'll help you, and I'll put, you know, I'll uplift all these. And, you know, we at Animus, like we have an immense art collection. We've collected from a ton of people, you know, and that's something that I'm like very proud of. And I feel like a lot of these, you know, 4 or 5 months when all my friends were just like dropping heat, I was kind of like on the back end, like helping others, and you know, just helping them connect to projects, and building things with Animus, and kind of just like uplifting my whole community that I have, you know, as a whole. And now I'm kind of pivoting. I was like, okay, maybe it's time for me to start dropping some stuff. So I have this drop coming up. I'm working on some other stuff where I'm experimenting a little more. So I'll do some other things that are not photography. I'm in love with like fractal art, so I make a lot of fractal stuff. I produce music, and not all the people have heard, but I make a lot of music. And I'm excited to just get all of that out there. And then, of course, just keep building Animus. With Animus, we have a drop on the meme platform coming up that I'm super excited about. We've been working at it for a while. And what else? Preem still wants to keep working. We have a few other musicians that saw the Preem drop, and they're like, hey, you guys want to do something together? So, you know, we have a lot of really cool things in the works. So, yeah, I'm super excited.
Hell yeah, man. Well, keep up the great work. Super grateful you came out here, man. No, it's done a lot, but it's still just the beginning, bro. So thanks for coming through.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah,
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Guys, that was a great conversation. I loved hearing his thoughts on the future of photography and NFTs and how young creatives can get in the space. What stood out for you?
Yeah, man. I think he's an artist at heart. He loves to create. He's a fan of culture and wants to be a pioneer in showing his interpretation, his own stories. And I think he's, like he said too, just coupled his love for art with his love for blockchain. And I think he's going to continue to be a massive driving force, not only with the own art he does, but through his collective, through the people like Premier that he liaises into the space. I think it's artists like him that are coming from a very like holistic place of just authentic creative expression that are really going to like foster a tidal wave of what's to come in this world.
That's some really great points, Sam. I think for me, what most stood out is like as a fellow immigrant, just seeing him come from like that disruption or that rupture in his life to stand up to where he's at today, especially shooting his shot. I think there's an immigrant hustle there that you just like shoot your shot, take a shot, emailing Premier, like just presenting, shooting the shot with Alex Gray as well. Just seeing that those elements that propelled him forward were really a conviction from internal, like I want to do this because of, not I'm being thrown or being put into this position. It's like rather creating it. And I just love seeing that, like a Latin American voice in the space, like, and very, very much like leveling up the gaming field. I think it's going to open up a whole new representation for another dynamic for the next wave, right? This is going to be bringing a lot of questions to a lot of Latinos that are going to say, hey, how can I also embrace NFTs? And JN Silva will be a prime example as to how to navigate this space.
Hell yeah, absolutely love it. If you haven't already, a quick reminder, definitely be sure to sign up for our newsletter, nftnow.co. Constantly keeping you up to date with upcoming drops, analysis, commentary. We're the source. We got it. We're looking out for y'all. And most importantly, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Peace.